we go.
Yes.
You know where your buttons are and whatnot.
Yes. Oh, I gotta hit record. I'm recording.
All right, good evening, everybody. It is now 7 p.m., Monday, October 17th. This is a meeting of the Human Affairs Committee, at which we will be having a public hearing. We are meeting at the Aldermanic Chamber. Madam Clerk, would you like to call the roll?
I certainly will, sir. Alderwoman at Large, Shoshana Kelly.
I'm here.
Alderman Patricia Cleed, clerk, is here. Alderman at Large Melbourne Moran Jr. Alderwoman at Large Gloria Timmons.
Here.
And Mr. Chairman, Alderman Thomas Lopez.
I will go by Toe today, yes.
Toe.
I am here.
Wait, what?
Also in attendance on my list here is Julian.
I know, but I don't see him.
See Julian.
Or Matt.
Okay.
Matt's in Maine.
Okay.
Julian is online.
Good, okay. I was a little concerned because
Yes.
typically when we have a public hearing, I'll just explain to the members of the audience, when we do a public hearing, we have the presentation on what the hearing is for by the city department so that we're all on the same page. So it's good that Mr. Long is here to do that.
There's also someone online with the last four numbers of 1953. May I ask you to identify yourself?
Can they? Are they unmuted?
They're muted. I'll ask them to unmute.
Okay, we'll have to assume that's not a member of the
Okay.
board or a staff member.
Hi, it's Julian Long on the telephone as well.
Oh, okay, you're on both then. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So we're holding a public hearing on the home program, American Rescue Plan, ARP funds, fiscal year 2022, July 1st, 2022 to July 30th, 2023. Mr. Long, would you be interested in doing a presentation for us? Assuming you're able to.
You may have to unmute again.
You have to hit.
Yeah.
This is Julian Long, Urban Programs Manager. I apologize for not being able to be there in person. I'm in Baltimore attending a lead conference. Regarding the home ARP plan, so we received a special allocation of home program funds through the American Rescue Plan Act. Home program funds affordable housing development and associated services. And the ARP funds are specifically for developing affordable housing for certain qualifying populations identified by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Those are homeless residents, residents at risk of homelessness, residents fleeing domestic or sexual violence, and residents at the greatest risk of housing instability. The plan has been revised since its first presentation to the Human Affairs Committee last month. The summary of the revisions are some funds were added to the nonprofit capacity building and tenant-based rental assistance categories of funding. And we also, based on comments and feedback from the aldermen, also added was a preference for projects serving homeless residents and residents at or below 30% of area median income.
Okay, so that's the extent of your presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
So of course, I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Now, with regards to the public hearing and the public comment period, what is the time frame with which the public can offer additional ideas or recommendations, and how does the public hearing affect that?
So the public hearing is not the only way to provide feedback. In addition, we have a public comments period that is running concurrently right now, and feedback can be sent by email, by telephone, by postal mail, or if someone would like to come in person to discuss in my office, I'm also very happy to do that, whatever is easiest for residents to do.
So I want to explicitly clarify, these should be mailing sent to Julian Long, email sent to Julian Long, attempt to contact Julian Long, not other members of the Planning Department or Economic Development Office.
That is correct. They should be addressed to Julian Long, Urban Programs Manager.
Okay. And ideally, any other city staff member who are collecting this information would be passing it on to you as well.
absolutely. I encourage all city staff to forward comments to me and also direct people to me directly.
Okay. So with the presentation done, are there any questions clarifying questions on the part of committee members?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I think this is the point that you were getting at. So the public comment and feedback to you is just that. That's not making an application for any of the funds or so on. It's making recommendations as to where the funds could possibly be used. Is that correct?
This is Julian Long. Yes, ma'am, that is correct. Right now, we don't have a grant application. We don't have any funded projects or potential projects. We were required to put together an allocation plan before we reached that step in the process. So this is just a very general funding outline of like, these are the types of projects we're interested in funding. The categories are fairly broad, like affordable housing development, administrative expenses, tenant-based rental assistance.
Just a quick
Follow-up, yeah?
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. So anytime that we're seeing any monies that are kind of appear to be allocated or anything like that, it's just a holding place, correct? And we will follow up with a final plan when we've given the blessing and so on. Is that correct?
This is Julie Long. Yes, after we finalize and adopt our allocation plan, we will put together a call for grant applications based on that plan and saying, if we end up allocating, $1 million for affordable housing development and $500,000 for tenant-based rental assistance, those aren't the actual numbers in the plan, just placeholders, for example. Then we would put out the call for application saying we have $1 million available for X project. We have $500,000 available for Y projects. And then from there, we will receive grant applications, and then those grant applications will be reviewed and presented back to the Human Affairs Committee for review.
Thank you.
Not to be too much of a heckler, but if we do allocate money for affordable housing, I'd love to see some sort of language clarifying that it will be kept for affordable housing and the word won't disappear. Alderman Kelly, were you raising your hand?
I was not.
Okay. So we have, Alderman Timmons, sorry.
Yes, thank you. One of the things about affordable housing, there's some confusion about exactly what you mean by affordable housing. And can we have some kind of clarification? What do they mean by affordable housing? The income level that you may qualify for affordable housing? Because saying affordable housing for some may not be affordable for others. So I would like some clarification on affordable housing.
Mr. Long, would you like to field that?
Yes, this is Julian Long again. So the general home program, you're looking in the range of up to 60 to 80% of area median income. These ARP funds are different though and special because of the qualifying populations. And generally what's considered affordable is 30% of someone's income towards housing costs. That's the rough estimate, generally accepted, that is considered affordable for that household. So a lot of these populations that HUD has identified as the qualifying populations for these particular funds, they're going to be under 80% of area median income. They might be at 60% or 30% or even less. So what's affordable for these populations, it's going to depend on the qualifying population. It's going to look different for homeless residents, for example, than probably those fleeing domestic and sexual violence. So it's a bit of an unsatisfying answer for which I apologize, but there will be slight differences population to population and project to project.
Okay, thank you.
So my understanding, Mr. Long, you can correct me, is if we use the definitions for this particular mechanism, instead of saying that, quote, affordable housing is 40% of the median income, which in Nashua is very high because we have a lot of people working over the border or owning properties and kind of driving it up. This looks at the individual's income level and in some ways may be more flexible. If you're dealing with a domestic violence situation and that person does have to relocate, but isn't necessarily subject to the same income, limitation that other people might be, depending on what their situation is. The identifying characteristic is what they're experiencing, not the economic problems that they're addressing. For me, the challenge with affordable housing is it's such an umbrella term that it includes workforce housing and includes low-income housing. People tend to equate affordable housing with low-income housing when it's not. It's the affordable housing threshold is much higher than those. So when we're talking about affordable, we could be talking about people who have 2 to 3 times as much income as the people we're all imagining we're helping. Does that sound accurate?
This is Julia Long again. Yes, I will point out though, we also, based on comments from last month's meeting, there is now language in the allocation plan specifying a preference for projects that serve homeless residents and residents at or below 30% area median income. So those projects, by definition of the populations they would serve, are going to be much more affordable than projects that are at the upper end of what's broadly considered affordable.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for the clarification. Seeing no more hands raised on the alderman, we can now take public testimony in favor. Just to kind of preface how this works, you would come up to the podium when we call. If you're in favor, you're coming up and you're speaking at that point to be in favor. You identify yourself by your name and your address, and then go ahead, speak, say your part. After that, we'll do testimony opposed for whoever opposes funding for helping the homeless. And then we're going to do testimony in favor again, and then will be testimony opposed again. So if you would like to make a public comment, come up to the microphone in favor of the legislation that or the plan that we're developing. Come up to the microphone, give your name and address, and then make your comments.
Hi, my name is Kathy Farland. I'm the Executive Director of Stepping Stones in Nashua. We are a homeless youth drop-in center. The address there is 3 Pine Street Extension in Nashua. I had some questions about this program in particular, especially since it seems to be based specifically, from what I'm hearing, more towards actual homeless people, which is the population that we work with. I have actually been trying to get information on this ARPA program for, 8 months, maybe longer. I don't seem to be able to get a whole lot of information as to how to get involved or to apply for it. I do understand from what Julian just said that it sounds like they're starting the application process, but I would like to make it known that we are looking to provide transitional emergency housing and permanent supportive housing for our homeless youth, and that we are very interested in being able to apply for these funds to help fund those projects.
Do you have any questions through the chair to Mr. Long while he's on the line?
I think just that I would like to speak to him at some point. He sounds like actually the right person that I need to be speaking to. So if I could set something up for a time to do that, that would be great.
Okay.
Do you have a contact information for him?
Julian, can you give your contact information?
Absolutely. This is Julian Long. Yes, the easiest way to reach me, especially this week where I'm at a conference, is by email. And my email address is longjj@nashuanh.gov.
Great. Thank you very much. I'll reach out to you this week.
All right, very
I
good.
look forward to talking with you.
Additional public comment in favor? If either of you would like to speak, you're welcome to come.
They're shy.
Okay. Now we will take testimony in opposition. Seeing none, we have a second round of in favor, if anyone would like to make any remarks in favor. Additionally, just as a description of process, we will close the public hearing. We will have this meeting, which also has a public comment period, and you can just make general public comment on things we have to act on, as long as it's germane to our general agenda. And then there will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting as well to make public comment. Any additional public comment in favor of the Home Program American Rescue Plan Act, ARP funds, fiscal year 22, July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. Any testimony in opposition? All right. Seeing none. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. And it's 7:15. It's closed.
Okay. Just as a point of order, we didn't actually make a vote to open it. I don't know if we need to.
I don't think we do. I don't
No.
think we do. I don't really think we needed to close it. I think you have the ability to open and close it.
Okay.
You don't need us
I will wield my
But
chair
thank you
powers
for
with
including
great
us.
gravity. Okay, now we will begin our regular meeting. So we will take public comment on general issues to human affairs.
I think I have to do a roll as well
Oh.
on this. Yeah,
Yeah, do it again.
okay. Alderwoman at Large Shoshana Kelly.
I'm here. I was actually just processing whether we need to do another roll, but I'm here.
I think so because we opened up this meeting, so.
Okay.
Alderman Patricia Klee, clerk, I'm here. Alderman at Large Melbourne Moran Jr., not here. Alderwoman at Large Gloria Timmons,
Here.
and Chairman Alderman Thomas Lopez.
Is here.
We also have Julian Long online and Officer, correct? Officer Pasillo in the audience.
All right. So first, any public comment? Anyone wishing to make public comment at this meeting? Seeing none. Any communications?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Communications from Julian Long, Urban Program Manager, in reference to Urban Programs Department updates, September 2022.
There being no objection, I will accept the communication and place it on file. Any unfinished business?
None?
Any new business resolutions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. R 22069, relative to the acceptance of $34,936 from the United States Department of Justice into Police Grant Activity 2022 Justice Assistance Grant, multi-jurisdictional.
I infer that Officer Priscilla was here to speak to it, and he's already up there.
Yes,
Okay.
I
Do you want me to make a motion, or?
Yeah, make a motion.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I motion to recommend approval of R 22. Yeah, I'm not gonna read it again, but R 22-069.
Okay, the motion is on the table, and Officer, would you like to proceed?
Sure. This grant, we get it every year. We're actually the sub-grantee, Manchester, receives the grant on behalf of Hillsborough County. I think the grant is a little over, to give the exact numbers, breakdown of it.
34,000?
No, so the way it breaks down for the
Okay.
county itself, it's over 200,000, 227,000. Manchester gets 192,433. We get 34,936, and Hillsborough County gets $7,000. That's how they break it down. So these funds are strictly used for overtime or equipment, and we use it for a lot of our programs that we run, our community policing events that we have, our crime watch meeting. Big push right now. We used to do a lot of our sex offender registration overtime through this, compliance checks through this grant. We've been getting a lot of money from the federal government. So we've kind of shift focus with CRACE, which is Civilian Reaction to Active Shooter Event. We have a huge demand for that right now. I think we're booking out until springtime right now because we have 17 schools here in the district, so we're getting the schools first through this training. So I have that money allocated for officers to go and participate during those training events. The equipment, we use the equipment for all kinds of different events, for stuff from, our honor guard uniforms. Just recently, we've added 4 new members to our ceremonial unit, and they're roughly about $1,000 a piece, which were in the budget. So we were able to use funds to purchase some new honor guard uniforms for the officers. So it helps us a lot with making that bridge between not depleting our overtime budget as it is, and this is all the grant money we use for, like I said, the crime prevention, community policing events, and we do a lot of that stuff. As you guys all know, you see Barbara and I out a lot. So that's what this money is mainly used for.
If I could ask a clarifying question about the sex offender monitoring.
Yep.
I have noticed a lot more, in my mind, people that are potentially being sent back for not reporting or that type of thing. And I know reciprocity is not good for anybody. So is that something where you are reaching out to them and being like, hey, you have to
Correct,
update
so-
where your address is and all that
Yes.
stuff?
I can speak, I used to do the sex offender registration for, when I was at the detectives. What they're doing now is they're sending out, I did it when I was there too, we go and do, we call them compliance checks. So the detectives in the detective bureaus will go out, make sure that they have the addresses, their address is supposed to be correct. They have a certain amount of time frame to report a different address change. But the officers will go there, make contact with the offender and ask them, make sure that they're at that correct address. If they're not there, they'd find out why. And then they'll check with, because they have to let us know what kind of car they're driving. If they have phone numbers, different phone numbers, social media, new employment. So we do keep a pretty good hold, a watch over them, I should say. And just like you said, it's reciprocity. If they move up from Massachusetts, if they're coming from another state, it's still the same thing. Whatever they register there, they'll be the same tier here, so.
Okay, and then with regards to community policing, I would imagine that the pandemic has kind of impacted that pretty heavily.
Yep.
And you're putting new programs together. I happen to live like a block away from the Power Center, so I know you have a strong presence where we are. But are there other areas of the city that you particularly feel like we need to do a better job? And is it there a way for aldermen to help you connect with those groups?
We have different grants for different stuff that I do. So I don't want to speak about other grants, but the other grants I have do target different parts of the city. So not, this grant really does, so it'd be like our National Night Out, which is a big event we have every year. A lot of the touch truck events, the Wheels and Wings event, we get requested. Merrimack, it's funny that Merrimack has a trick-or-treating event for their nonprofits. They invite us to go. The Apple Fest, I think this was the first time he hasn't contacted, usually at the Apple Fest. We went to Old Home Day over in Hollis with our SWAT vehicle. So those are the events that we go to, and that's what the grant is really paying the officers' salaries to do, so the overtime salary.
Okay. Any additional? Okay, Alderman Clee and then Tim.
Actually, two questions. One is, I see quite a disparity between Manchester and Nashua as far as the
Yeah.
funding is concerned. 192,000 to 34,000 doesn't quite seem fair. Even the population, I don't think.
They're over
No.
20,000 more than us, I believe.
Yeah,
So it is-
it seems to be quite a bit difference there. Is there a reason for that? Do you
So-
know, or?
This is technically my first term with the JAG, because
Okay.
I'm new to my position, so I'm gonna reach out, because when I saw that number 2, I'm not sure because they manage everything, but it's not we take grants, we manage them all the time, so
Right.
it's not a matter of us not applying ourselves. I don't know, it's been established well before me, and then well before my predecessor.
Right.
So I believe we've been getting this grant for over 10 years, maybe even longer. So I don't know what the arrangement was before we applied, so.
That
I
was
have
kind
looked
of
into it, because it was kind of eye-opening when I saw that discrepancy too. I was like, wow, they get a big piece of the pie, and we get this little sliver, so.
If I could just follow up on that, that was just kind of my question was, did we not get some other paperwork in there?
No, and it fluctuates. So last year it was down to 30,000. I think the year before it was 27. It's come back up a little bit. So, and I guess it has been as high as 50. So it depends on, when usually we spend every single dollar too. We never turn anything down, because there's always something. Like I said, we had a big push at the end. We had a couple officers, we had to get a generator for our drones. That was purchased with that money too. That was $2,400 for a generator just for the drones. And like I said, it was another, I think it was just under $3,000 for those uniforms.
Wow.
So.
And just the last question that I have, if I may. Thank you. I read the analysis here, and it did not speak to having to have any matching funds. So this is just a straight up 34,000, whatever extra
My bad,
money.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
No, that's okay. It doesn't say in the analysis, which usually means it's not there. For those that are listening, I want clarifying that there's no city money
There's
that'll
no
be
city
spent.
money, yeah.
This is above and beyond your
Mhm.
budget. So thank you.
Alderman Timmons.
Thank you, Chairman Lopez. My colleague took the question right out of, my mouth, because I thought, wow, that's a big
She did get
difference.
12
It
questions.
is,
She did.
it's eye-opening,
She knew I was
yeah.
gonna ask that question, but,
Could feel it.
Some
yeah.
riders.
But I want to make a comment. We are the second safest city in the country, and you must be doing something good. I'm gonna support this because I always support things that's gonna make us safer. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And
Thank
keep
you.
doing what you're doing because it's working.
Thank you, appreciate your support.
Alderman Kelly, any comments, any questions?
I'm good.
All right, I'm generally inclined to support this as well because I love our safe city, and I know that particularly last night we appreciated having them in the neighborhoods. But also it's kind of nice to get our federal tax money back every now and then.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll just move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion to recommend final passage has passed.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That looks, any new business ordinances?
Sorry. There are none?
Tabled in committee.
Do we want to take R 22-060?
Well, we could. Mr. Long, do you want us to untable R 22-060? It is accepting funds and adopting an allocation plan for the U.S. Department of Urban.
I don't think we're ready to do that yet. We still have the open comment?
Oh, that's why I waited for, that's why I was wondering if Mr. Long wanted to make a run.
Yeah.
Mr. Long, any thoughts?
This is Julian Long. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Give me just one moment and I will double check on how long the comments period runs till. I will also say, certainly we want to move expeditiously because the sooner we do this, the sooner we get funds out the door, but it's not necessary that you take it off the table tonight necessarily. We are still pending a request for technical assistance from HUD to assist us with the allocation plan to make sure that, when we submit it, everything, all the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted, and the plan gets accepted. So I'm happy to defer to the Human Affairs Committee's preference here.
I will say from personal experience that dealing with housing and urban development is its own level of ritualistic witchcraft, like they have their own terms, their own processes. It's a little ridiculous, so I can understand there being a hang-up.
Alderman Kelly.
Alderman Kelly?
Yeah, and my understanding is that, we oftentimes will put it on the table while we do these public comment periods. So once Julian Long has the answer on when that's supposed to be open to, I have some questions and I wonder if we should entertain them now.
We could do that under discussion.
Or we can take.
Or we could take it off the table and then we could discuss it and put it
And
back
then
on.
put it back on.
Okay,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do it that way, it's fine.
Sure. Can I move to?
Motion on the, well,
Yeah.
is this a formal motion, Ms.
I would like to move to take it off the table, please.
All right, move to take it off the table for purposes of discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay? Nobody said nay, okay. Then
Sounded like you did.
I'm just giving directions, okay? I also said aye twice. Alderman Kelly?
He's not there right at the
Thank
moment.
you. I know, Julian, that you are working on looking up the comment period. So I have a question, but I want to make sure that you're not still digging.
He's there.
Well, this is Julian.
Okay.
The comments period runs through October 26th.
Okay, so we do need to put it back on the table, it sounds
Yeah.
like.
So just a note for the public, Mr. Long is on 2 different accounts right now because with Zoom, you can make sure you have a more solid phone connection, audio connection through your phone, so we can see him, but what shows up on the video probably is just a big icon of a phone, but there's 2 different windows here.
So I'll proceed with my question if that's okay.
Yes,
Just wanted to make
go
sure
ahead.
he was all set. All right, so first of all, I want to say thank you for the work. Obviously, it works a lot like other things that we do in this committee, and there's been a lot of back work and conversation with the community. And as someone who prides myself on knowing what's going on with affordable housing, it feels right to what I've been hearing from the community. The one question I had, I know we're kind of using, the budget that we've got to move things around. I noticed that you're putting most of the money in this temp plan into actually building units, which I think makes sense. However, we're only putting $100,000 into helping those who might be struggling right now to pay rent. And I was just wondering, given the state of what things are going and how long it takes to actually build new units, if we might want to consider putting a little bit more into rental assistance right now, knowing that people are, dealing with higher electric bills and all those things and trying to get into housing.
Mr. Long?
This is Julie Long. Yes. I'm very open to that consideration. Part of this whole process is getting feedback on the draft and see. I'm just bringing up to see if that category is one of the ones where we have the limits. It is not. Yes, I'd be very interested in hearing thoughts on kind of where we might want to take money from and shift it into the rental assistance category.
If I could do a follow-up, Alderman Lopez?
Yep, Alderman Kelly?
So, thank you, I appreciate your openness to thinking about it. Do you have any sense on how, we have lots of different ways, someone calls, they say they need help, welfare can help, do you have any idea on how that process might work? Is it, are we covering rent once, are we covering lump sum, like go out and, use this for now? Do you know how it's worked in the past?
This is Julie Long. So I would think that this process would be actually separate from our welfare, and instead it would probably work through granting funds through two nonprofit agencies who are already providing rental assistance, and or those who are interested in moving into that field versus the city itself providing the funds directly to residents.
Okay, great. I don't necessarily feel like I need to make a motion now to change this, since we know we have to do public comment, but I would love to just have a follow-on conversation and talk about it when this comes forward for the full committee to review again.
Okay. Before I call on you, I just want to clarify some things. So the Greater National Continuum of Care typically coordinates with city welfare. The Board of Health oversees what public health activities are and does does a monthly report on that. Alderman Moran is in fact the liaison to both. And the coordinated entry system is typically a referral point for city welfare. They will try to get nonprofit organizations to connect with the individuals if possible, and then if there isn't additional support, then they will, under specific circumstances, provide assistance. They will also monitor for case management, compliance, and other different factors. So I encourage everybody on the board to attend both the public health, the Board of Public Health meetings at least 2 or 3 times a year, and the continuum of care, because this is an area of very specific work, which is always ongoing, because the partners are changing, the population is changing, and the dynamics are changing. So it's never something that you can give a quick and immediate answer for. Alderman Clee?
Thank you. I'll let Alderman
I just
Woman
want,
Timmons go first if you don't
Before
mind.
you
Thank you,
ask all of her
okay.
questions.
Yes.
I just want one clarification. I'm the liaison for the health department, and
Oh, he's the alternate?
and yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's well represented on this board, at least.
Yes. Thank you so much. I want to echo Alderwoman Kelly's words, and but I do have a question, and I think you may have answered it, and I'm just not quite getting it. I believe that we should be putting more money into the tenant-based rental assistance. I think that that's going to help, and I like the idea of somewhat of getting it out of the city. But Mr. Long, how do we? How would this program work if we used a third party for that? I mean, are they going to be getting administrative funds to administer that, or would we just, because they do this program, we would give them a grant, and because they already have an ongoing program? Is that how it would work?
This is Julian Long again. At least some of this, I'm afraid I don't know. Historically, we haven't done rental assistance with our home funds. So to set this up, I would need to do a little bit more research to figure out what the HUD requirements are for this. But I do think it would be in the form of a grant to an agency, and probably the funds would be for the direct rental assistance. It would not cover their administrative needs, but that's something I'm afraid I would need to double check on. And I'd also like to take opportunity to go back to an earlier question, my apologies, regarding affordability limits. I should have added back then also that the home program has maximums that you can charge for rent based on unit size. So there's absolutely a cap for properties that are assisted with home funds.
Any follow-up?
Yes, and this may be off, and if that's the case, I can take it offline and ask. I've recently, and I'm bringing it up because you mentioned the affordability of the max rent. I've recently come across those people, and I know this particular case was a Section 8 housing, but they had to leave where they were living because the landlord decided to raise the rent and kind of push them out of that category. Thank goodness the city was able to work with them and find them other housing, but that's not always the case. He's a very forceful person and so on, but so when we're talking about this affordability of max rate, do we have enough housing currently that people would be able to qualify for, and that this money, if we did do this rental assistance, I mean, is it just rental assistance for any rate of rent, or is it rental assistance within that max rent rate, affordability max rent rate? Did I say that right?
This is Julia Long. Again, I'd have to take a look and make sure it's not addressed in the regulations for the home program. I know the home rental limits, that applies to projects that are assisted with the Affordable Housing Development Fund. I don't know offhand whether that also applies to direct rental assistance. I would have to check on that. But certainly it's an issue. Even the affordable rental rates as specified by the home program obviously aren't affordable for everyone. We have the ability to put stricter restrictions than what HUD allows. There may be a question of whether projects can, go forward with that level of strictness, but we do have flexibility in that regard.
Thank you.
Mr. Long, I see you, McKelly, sorry. Mr. Long, if I might make a recommendation, it might be helpful to talk to Michael Reinke and Heather Nelson, who co-chair the Continuum of Care. During my description before, I was focusing more on what city welfare does, but as we know, the Continuum of Care is a collection of organizations that are collectively applying for HUD funding, so they may have specific performance measures that we could use. I know in meetings past, Alderman Moran had brought up that if we're going to grant money out, we should be able to track what they're spending it on and that they're actually having results. And there may be some, it makes sense to ask the people who've been doing it for 30 years if we're starting into a new area. Alderman Kelly?
Thank you. Mr. Long, I have heard that there are people who have been potentially supporting, their rental housing through COVID relief funds. And that was the other thing that was in the back of my mind, that's gonna run out, and that we may have more need on our hands, which is one of the main reasons I was looking at this. Have you heard that as well?
This is Julian Long. Yes, certainly that's something that everyone in the affordable housing world has been tracking very closely. There was, as I'm sure you all know, eviction moratoria at the very start of the COVID-19 pandemic, followed by a lot of federal funds dedicated toward rental assistance. A number of those programs, however, are winding down now. The funds have been expended. And so certainly a lot of people have been asking questions, okay, what comes next? And certainly our funds to be a part of answering that question.
Yeah, and I think that was my thinking, was I think there's going to be quite a bit of shift once that runs out, and making sure that we assess and help people now as they need it, and, you know, in the future as we build units.
And to Alderman Kelly's point, I would add that we're probably would have been looking at a bubble created by a lot of rapid rehousing money that came into the city around 2018, 2019.
Yep.
And we would have started to see those programs expiring, except a lot of them were able to find additional support through pandemic relief. So we really do want to keep our eyes on that and make sure that we know exactly how many people are going to be struggling and what the demand is going to be in specific areas. Any further questions on the part of the committee? Alderman Kelly.
No further question. I just wanted to thank Mr. Long for his work, and I think, you know, this is a really interesting piece of what we have to do in this city to help get people back on their feet and, you know, build housing so people can come live in our great city. So I know that we will, during this comment period, get as much information and make sure this plan is the best for everyone involved. Thank you.
Appreciate your comments, Alderman Kelly. As I am a walking example of someone who is technically disabled but not, just because you receive a fixed income at some point, or you go through different crises and you need interventions and that type of thing, doesn't mean as a city we should ever believe that such a large population of people who have struggled and have need don't have the potential to become very, very valuable and very, very supportive, productive citizens. I always feel like we need to put a lot more investment in that transition process than recruiting people from distances or other efforts that are underway.
Yeah.
Do we want to put this back on the table?
I think we should.
Yes.
Alderman Clee?
Yes, sorry.
Madam
Chairman Lopez, I will motion to place R 22060 back on the table.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it is back on the table. Any issues for general discussion? All right, seeing no hands up, we'll move to public comment. Would any members of the public like to make public comment?
She says
Well,
no.
I would like to thank the other two members of the public for coming. They were very supportive of issues addressing homelessness and the need for that in this community. But not everybody's used to being up in front of the microphone and having people looking at you and all that kind of stuff. So I appreciate them coming out and meeting with us and talking to us. Remarks by the Alderman. Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and people will get tired of hearing me say this, but I'd like to thank all of those that came out on Sunday to the Riverfest.
It was Saturday.
Sorry. Can't keep track of my days anymore.
It was a heck of a weekend.
It was. We were blessed with the best of weather, the best of volunteers, with Alderman Lopez at the helm, and I would love to just give everybody's name, but at the moment my mind is blanking. But we did good for the very first event. We helped the duck derby sell more ducks, and I believe that they helped bring people over to us as well. So I think it was a win-win situation for everybody, and looking forward to having the second one in June next year. I just have to negotiate a weekend. Within that, two of the people I have to negotiate are sitting in this room. So, but I think June is going to be a good month to do it at. It will be the anniversary month of when the city became a city, as well as when Nashua and Nashville split up and went back together. So,
Your t-shirts ready?
yeah, oh yes.
She's got a prop.
Oh yeah, I do, I have a prop. And stay tuned for more information about this beautiful t-shirt will be being sold.
All
We
right,
have
let's try
some
to
left
self-help
over.
We're just saying Nashville, established 1842.
But it's in Nashville, New Hampshire, established in 1842, right? Yes. So I hope that we'll see you next year. Thank
It's
you.
a very unique piece of history. I recommend everybody look it up.
Yes,
Alderman Kelly.
extremely.
I too wanted to say great job on the Riverfest. I got to sneak in quickly and see everyone out. It was a beautiful day, so thank you for that. And I just wanted to comment about the homelessness thing again, because I know we've been talking about it, but I actually enjoyed this Tree Street Block Party. And I will tell you that probably 5 people came up to me and talked to me, some who had gone through stepping stones and were working through homelessness themselves, some people who have been seeing it as an increasing issue that they're having to deal with, talking to people downtown. And I think it's really important, the work that we're doing now, to make sure that we can eradicate it, because everybody needs a safe place to live.
Actually, the 2 people that were here were at the event
Oh.
on Saturday too.
So that's why we do block parties. I know I am famous for my little Tree Streets block party, but it's an opportunity for people to come and meet each other and particularly engage with us as politicians and feel like they're connected to the community, they're empowered to speak, to be part of things and to make decision makings, and particularly for people who are struggling on the boundaries of the system and the expectations that, this is a country where anything's possible, but the reality is not easy. It's really important for them to have that kind of access to people and community members and leaders and resources. Also, I would just comment, since Stepping Stones did make public comment, I would encourage everybody to check out their programs online. One of the things I particularly like is that they interview former members and they give you good, regular snapshots of who is struggling in Nashua, what kind of things they're struggling with. And it's a good way to kind of keep, a human face to these big issues that we talk about, like there's X number of people dealing with this or this criteria for that or this category, bringing it back to the individual cases and what they're doing, and hearing the stories of the people that are able to figure out solutions and supports and resources is very inspiring, and it reminds us all that we can do more, and doing more will make a difference. Alderman Timmons.
Thank you, Chairman Lopez. I, again, want to thank you guys for doing a wonderful job last Saturday. I was impressed. I met a lot of Ward 3 constituents, and I learned a lot talking to them all day on their beautiful day, which is a gorgeous day. And I did talk to some of the people that was homeless, and I felt really bad, and I know that we can do better. I know that we can do better by the food insecurity, the housing problem. I was kind of disappointed with the loft because they're so expensive, and I can't afford to live there myself. So I learned a lot, and thank you for that wonderful day, because without that I wouldn't have met some of those people that may not have voted for me because they couldn't vote. They looking for a place to lay their heads, or they're looking for a meal. And so voting is not an issue, it's getting a place to live is an issue. So I appreciate the fact that Alderwoman Elijah Kelly is working on the homeless, and all of you guys as well, because we need to do something sad. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. At this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Alderman Kelly?
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We
7:48.
are adjourned.
It's 7:48.
Just stepped on your mouth.
No, you were supposed to say it. I was trying to feed it to you.